Hi creative friends, it's Ashley the Thrifty Chica here, and today I'm going to be giving you guys a walkthrough of how to use Design Space. So this was requested by one of our awesome group members. Her name is Katie, so thank you so much, Katie, for asking. If you're starting out with your brand new Cricut machine, you may be confused like, okay, where do I go after the first project? So this was something that I found confusing myself was, okay, how do I use the software? Where do I start? So this is going to be a kind of a quick run through of the basics of the software. I have more in-depth videos that go through each function and give you a lot of in-depth information, but I wanted to give you kind of a quick overview walkthrough, and so that way you can take a look at how it works. So we're inside Cricut Design Space. If you've created your first project, this is where you're going to be, is inside Cricut Design Space. If you haven't set up your machine yet, go ahead and set up your machine. Go to design.cricut.com, and then you'll be able to open up this after you've logged in. It'll take you to the home screen, and the home screen will have things like whatever projects you've made. It'll also have different projects kind of in like a Pinterest style where you can kind of look through things that the community members have made, some cute cards, all different types of projects that you can really look through and play around with. So I always recommend looking through them for inspiration as well. But we're going to go ahead and create a brand new project. There are a couple of ways you can do that. You can click on where it says new project, or you can click up here where it says new project. So I'm just going to click on the arrow button here. The plus sign, and what it does is it takes us to the canvas screen. So this is a blank canvas to work on. When you're working on a blank canvas, you'll notice that there are a lot of different features along here, and this is where it gets confusing, and I understand why so many people are like, where do I start? Because you're learning a brand new software, brand new process, and once you get used to it, you'll realize it's a lot simpler than you think, but it's very confusing at first because there's so many different things you can do. So let's walk through what you can actually do with this. So we're in here, we have a brand new screen. Let's talk about, you want to create a project. Maybe you saw something really cute and you're excited to create that. So let's talk about one of the first features, which is using the upload button. So one of the most common things I hear from people is, I want to upload an image. How do I do this? So we'll click on upload here. And what this does is it takes you to a screen where you can upload an image, and then you can also see your recent uploads. So these ones right here are free images that you guys will end up having here soon. It's going to be part of some free stuff I have coming up for spring. Really excited about it. So all of these like cute little spring ones here, the top four. So what you can do is you can click upload an image, and these are the file types that you can use to upload. If you're working with a project, I usually recommend starting out with a .svg for your first few projects if you're going to upload an image. So you can click upload an image, you can click browse, and it'll allow you to add an image to here. But let's go back to the main screen itself, and what it does is it'll take us right back here. So let's talk about these different options along the side here. Projects, we were talking about projects, so if you're clicking on projects, this is just to go back to the inspiration that's available. But if you're done, you've taken a look at it, and you want to create on your own, you can totally do that. We're going to go back in, and this whole side here has different information that you can use. The first one would be something like templates. So if you click on templates, templates are something that you can use as a background that doesn't become part of the image. So this is an idea if you want to design something and you want something to use as kind of like a background to visualize it. So let's click on something like a blank t-shirt. So as it says, they're for reference only and will not be saved with your project. So you tend to use these if you're designing something and you kind of want to see how it would look on a shirt. It also helps you with sizing a little bit too. So you can do that. And if you wanted to, so let's say we're creating a t-shirt, there are different ways you can do that. The first way you can do that is to click on shapes. And this is a free section that you can use. It's part of the design software. And it gives you information such as you can click different options. Maybe you're going to add a square for the background for your image, and you can do that. Or you can add different shapes like circles, all of that stuff. There's also a line for scoring. The scoring line is if you were going to create like something like a card and you wanted a fold in it. So that's an option too. You probably won't be using that immediately, but I just wanted to let you know. So those are some options there. Generally, if you're going to create a project, you'll want to break out the library. And if you haven't yet, if you're brand new to Cricut Design Space and you haven't used the first month of membership for free, you'll go up to the top here at your profile, scroll down to where it says Cricut Access, and then what it'll let you do once you click on it is activate that 1 month for free. I recommend activating it so that way you can try out the library, play around with it for a month. I think you'll realize exactly like how much I love it and how much you probably will love it too. There's so many options in there. There's over 100,000 images inside Cricut Design Space that you can play around with. So the Access membership I do think is really worth it. So you can click on images, and when you click on images, it brings up a whole library of images to work through. In fact, look at that, 194,000, it's almost 200,000 images. That's a lot. You can select by project type, operation type, all of these different ways you can use to kind of play around and narrow it, or you can just search in the search bar by what you're looking for. So maybe let's look for a dog. So I'm just clicking on dog, and what it does is it'll bring up a whole bunch of different project images that you can use. So you can take a look, and if you see something cute, there's a free one. So let's go ahead and select that one. You can tell that it's selected because it has a little box around it. You can also tell that these little ones that have the tag with the A are the Cricut Access membership images. So that's something to keep in mind. If you have the Cricut Access membership, then you don't really worry about it. But if you don't have it, you'll just want to avoid the ones that are the Access membership. So we'll click on that. You can also click on other ones if you wanted to take a look at how they work. So let's just select a few of them. And then you can see along the bottom here that they show that they're all functional there. We're going to click Insert Images. What it'll do is just layer a whole bunch of them inside there. So taking a look, they're really small on here. If we wanted to resize them, what you'll want to do is you can click on the bottom right arrow here and just drag it outwards, and it'll help you resize it. The X is if you wanted to remove it. You can also turn and twist it using the top right corner here. So you can move it around however you like, the poor dog, me turning it around. You can also change it around if you click unlock, and unlock will let you adjust how it looks. So this is one of my favorite things is I unlock and then I maybe want it to face the other way. You can do that. Or you can adjust the ratio of it and really adjust the look. So once you're done with that, you can click lock again and it'll hold it in place. There's also these ones here. Let's size those a little bit bigger. What if you want it to be a very specific size? So maybe I want this dog to be, instead of 10.2.64 inches, I want it to be exactly 10 inches. Well, then you can go up to the top here and there's the sizing category. So it says width and height. So you can adjust this over here just by typing in what you're looking for. So you can type that in, just hit tab, and it will automatically keep the same ratio for it. So now we have the same ratio and we know it would fit what we're looking for. And as you may notice, there are different layers to these projects. So some of these have different layers. So how can you tell if it's going to be more than one color, more than one layer? You can go ahead and look on the right side of the screen. This is called the layers panel. And if you highlight your project that you're working on, what it does is it shows you with the gray here what it is for layers here. So we know that this dog piece here, this blue one, has 4 different layers. So I'm going to exit out of this. We'll make this a little bit bigger so we can really see it. It's got 4 different layers. So if we wanted to take a look at this, we can take a look at, do you see where it says the little eyes here? If you click on the eyes, what it does is it hides that specific layer. So this tells you what that section looks like. So if you wanted to play around with how it looks with a layer or without a layer, you can do that. So you could make it like this instead of having that layer. So that's an option too. And if you ever see something like this where it looks like a triangle, it tells you the sizing of this. So this one says the image is too large, reduce the image size to 11.5 by 23.5 or less. That's if you're working with an image, you have to make sure that it will fit within the mat. That's the reason that it gives you that. There are extended mats that are the 24-inch long mats you could use, but the standard one that comes with the machine is a 12-inch mat. So that's just something to keep in mind. So you're going to always want to keep it within those measurements unless you want to cut it into pieces here. So just taking a look. So here's our little t-shirt, and as you take a look on it, that would look really cute there. So we could place it on the front and kind of play around with that. What if you don't like the color of something? Well, you can go ahead and click on a layer of something if you want. So say you want to change the nose and the eyes to brown. So you can go to the side here and change the sections that you want to change based on that. So we know that the red pieces is the background layer, and we want that to be a different color. So I'm selecting that layer. Up top here where it says Operation, Basic Cut, there's a section where you can choose the colors. So maybe I'm going to change that to brown, and now the dog has brown eyes and brown nose. So you can click on it again, and if you want, you can change it to whatever options you're working with. I'm using the Cricut Maker, so it gives me more options to work with on different things. So there's scoring, debossing, engraving. Print and cut is if you're going to use a inkjet printer to print it out. You can draw. So it just really depends on which machine you're using. If you're using an Explorer machine, you could do things like the foil tool if you have the foil tool. But if you're just working with things like cardstock and vinyl, you'll use the basic cut for that one. So let's take a look at some of the other features here. What if you wanted to add some text to this? So you can click on where it says text, and it pops up a little window. This window can be used so that you can type in whatever you would like to include for text. So we can type in hello for this example. And what it does is it brings it in a font that is automatically in the system, which is the Cricut Sans. You'll see that one generally is the first one. And what if we don't like how that looks and we want it to look different? Let's go ahead and play around with that. So you can go up to the drop-down menu here. So if you highlight what you're working on, then it opens up this menu here. So as you notice, if we're doing this, it's all grayed out, right? But when you click on it, it gives you a lot of different options. So you can rotate things, you can adjust the positioning on it, you can adjust the sizing, you can arrange things front or back. If you wanted this layered on top, you could arrange it to the front or the back. You can do editing where you're either cutting or copying. There's a lot of different options that you can play with, but most of the time you're going to select the item that you're working on, and then you're going to select, okay, which type of font do I want? So you can scroll through. Cricut Design Space has over 500 different fonts that you can work with. If you see the little A next to it, that's a Cricut Access font. So you'll just want to kind of scroll through and see if there's something that appeals to you that you want to use for this. So I'm going to go ahead and use this one here. There are different things to the fonts that you would want to pay attention to. So one says single layer cutting. So a single layer cutting means that you're only going to be creating a one layer option. If you're doing something with multiple layers, it'll look different, and you can get rid of some of the layers, or you can keep them all single layer. Some will also say writing, which means you can use the pen feature for that. So just keep an eye on whichever font you're picking, what it says underneath it, so that you can use it the way that it's chosen there. So I'm just picking a font there. And now you can size it or do whatever you like with it. I'm going to remove the template here. So let's go ahead and hide that, because I don't need that right now. And I wanted to show you, what if you're playing around with fonts and you want a script font? So script fonts are probably one of the biggest things that I see people get confused with. So when you're working with a standard regular font like this, you really don't have to do much other than create the size that you want. But if you're working with something that has kind of a cursive, you'll want to kind of play around with how it adjusts here. So let's go ahead and pick one. So I'm just scrolling through here. So when you're doing cursive, it brings up some different options that you may want to play around with, which is one reason that I'm choosing this. I think I'll just pick one of the more simple ones here. We'll choose Elizabeth here. So this is a really great one. I love this one because you can really see the features of this. So when you're working with a font, you're going to notice that everything is grouped together at first. So what if you want to make sure that all of these letters connect like cursive normally would? There's a couple ways to do it. The first is to go up to where it says letter space up here, and you can adjust it so that they're closer together and they eventually touch. But I feel like this is the easiest way to do it. So what you're going to do is you'll go up to the top here and you'll click on ungroup. This is grouping is if you want to keep all of your items together in a combination here. So you can draw a box around it if you want to do that and click group. Or if you want them to be separate, you just click ungroup. So I'm going to ungroup them, and now you can see that they're individuals. So because they're individuals, we can kind of slide them over and move them together. So all I'm going to do is drag these pieces over here, and that way we can kind of see what they would look like together as cursive. So we're just moving those over. If you tried to cut this right now, I'm going to show you what it would look like. It will show you all of these as individuals. So you notice that they're not actually connected here, and I have them pretty large so you guys can see them, but they're not connected. So we're going to go back, and we want these to be connected. So you can draw a box around them. You could hit group, but that won't make sure that they're connected. So there's two ways to connect things. There's the first, which is you draw a box around it and you can click attach. Attach makes them keep the same position. So if you click to make it, okay, it's probably the sizing here. Yep. Okay. So I'm going to adjust the sizing down so you guys can see it. Let me go in a little bit more. So we can adjust the sizing down to that. If you clicked make it, what it would do is it would show on the mat as the whole item, but it would cut these as still as individual letters. They'll be cut in this position, but they would be cut with the same cutoff lines that they would have normally. So we want to avoid that. We click cancel. If you're doing cursive, you'll want to make sure that you click weld, but make sure that when you use the weld tool, weld is a permanent feature, so you have to use it cautiously. You want to usually save an extra copy of something if you weld it, and you may go back to change it. So before you weld it, you could do duplicate, or you can use the duplicate button up here. So you can click duplicate. But you can take that and you can make that one invisible, so that way you don't see it. And then you have a copy saved as a backup. But if you're going to weld something, you can click weld, you highlight it and click weld. And what that does is it makes it a single cut all the way through. So the program will recognize that this is all one piece that's continual, and that way it'll cut it without those lines that make them individual letters. So you can see there's a difference here. This is the attached version that we hid, and you can see that it still shows all the individual letters. On this one, the welded one, you can see that it's one single word. So that's the big difference between how those work. There's also other features that you can use. Let's go ahead and take a look at our doggy here. There are different features that you can use here too. On the bottom of here, we've already used the attach and the weld. There's a slice tool, a flatten tool, and a contour tool. So if you are creating a design and it has a lot of details, a lot of layers, and you want to create it as a sticker instead of cutting each individual piece, you maybe want to cut it as a single sticker. You can take a shape and make something like maybe a circle and put this as the background. So maybe we're going to make a cute little printable sticker. So I've got that. I made that shape and I changed the color. Now we're going to go up to the top and click arrange, and we're going to send to the back. So here's our little dog. If we were going to make it a sticker, I'm going to group it, and then I'm going to size it down a little bit. So once you size that down, we can hit something like the flatten tool. So remember, anytime you want to work with something, you have to click on it, and then you can click flatten if you wanted, and now it's a sticker. You can create this as multiple stickers, size it smaller, duplicate it and make a whole row of stickers. So that's an option too. Let's go back. You can click the undo button, by the way, at the top here. If you want to move backwards or forwards a few steps, you can redo or hit undo. So we're back on this one. If you want to detach this at any point, you can do that too. You can ungroup these. And what if we wanted to do something like contouring? So contouring is when you have something that has a ton of different items that you want to work with. So let's go ahead and we'll go into images, and I'll find something that has more items to contour. So something like this might be neat. So let's click insert images. Let me move the little doggy here. So if you're clicking on that, that might be, there we go. We can select a layer. So say we have this and we don't like this blue layer. We just want it to have a couple spots, not all of the spots. So you can click on which layer it is that you want to work with. So I want to choose these blue spots here, and I'm going to click on contour on the bottom. And when you click on contour, what it does is it allows you to select the portions that you want to have less visible. So you could say, oh, I don't want this part here. Maybe I just want one fish. And then you can exit out and remove that section. So those are kind of some options that you can work with. So that's the blue section there. It works best if you're doing something that has lots and lots of sections, or let me see if I can find this gnome one that I've used as an example before. This is really fun because if you like it to, here you go, no more pie. Okay, this is one of my favorites. So if you have a design and you maybe just want to adjust it, you want to have it say something different, or you want it to be different, you can take a design, click on contour, and then you can decide which parts of the design that you want to hide or remove from it. So as you can see, everything's highlighted here. You can scroll on the side to do that, or you can just go ahead and click. Maybe you don't want this to be a seasonal one, so you can just click the items that you want to disappear, and all of these like snowflakes will go away. So maybe we're just doing it that way, and then we'll exit out, and now you can see there's no more snowflakes. If you wanted those to all come back, you can click on contour again, and it'll load it again. You can say hide all contours and then show all contours again if you want, and it'll reset it back to what you had before. So that's kind of an idea of how some of these different tools work. And if you're working on something and you want to delete it, you can also click the trash can there, or you can just exit out here. But there's a lot of different ways that you can play around with it, but essentially those are the big ones that you'll end up using. You know, you can do the arranging tools, and you can also align stuff. Say if you have multiple pieces and you wanted to align them together, you can do that as well. So hopefully this kind of quick walkthrough helped you to understand a little bit more about Cricut Design Space. I'll probably do a more formal one later, but I wanted to give you like kind of a quick overview. So when you have your project and you're ready to go, let me go ahead and remove some of these pieces here. Say we're just going to work on this one. You'll decide the sizing. Let's see if we have the sizing here. I'm going to duplicate this and make this a different color here. So what if I'm making another one and I'm going to make that one pink? When we're ready, we'll click make it. And what it does is it'll take you to this project screen. You'll see that it has your mat and it'll be in the color that you selected. And then there's a secondary screen. So whichever one that you have highlighted is the one that it's going to cut. You can select which material size you're using. You can also select mirroring. Mirroring is just if you're doing something with iron-on vinyl, something like that where you're going to apply heat to it. But for regular vinyl or cardstock, you don't need to do that. So that's just something to keep in mind with that. So if you say you cut a page and you need to go back and do a different page, you can always select that page and then click continue for that. So I'm just going to click the first page, and then we click continue. It will connect to your machine, and then it's going to ask you which material you're using. So because of that, you'll go through and select through a whole series of materials which one you're doing. So it'll ask you to set what you're working with. You can browse materials, A lot of times it'll just set you on the popular ones. If they're ones you tend to use a lot, you can always click on it and save it. So you can say, okay, I use medium cardstock a lot. You can highlight it or favorite it, and then it lets you do, however many you want. If you don't see it in here, you can click Browse All Materials. And what it does is it'll bring up all the different materials that there are to work with. You can also search in the materials. And if you want to make a custom setting, you can go into the material settings and create your own as well. So it'll tell you the pressure, how many times you cut it, which blade is being used. This is really handy. I have a guide that has information on all of this in case you're interested. But you can select which material you're using. If you're doing a test cut and you're not sure of the pressure, you can kind of play around with it. Say it's not cutting through completely, you can click more pressure, or you can click less. If you're using a Cricut Explorer series machine, there's a dial on it that lets you choose which material you're working. Set it to custom, and then it will automatically ask you which material to use. So that's just a little tip to remember. If you leave it on custom, it'll always ask you which material you're using. That way you don't forget to set it to the correct material. So you can play around and select which one you want, and then it'll tell you to load the tools and the material. So for this, it would be a fine point blade. And then we can unload and load our mat by pressing the arrow button. And then when it's ready, it will flash the Cricut symbol. So hopefully this quick walkthrough helped you. And if you have any questions, always feel free to leave them below or to contact me, and I'm happy to help you guys out. I will leave links to all of my free guides so you guys can check them out from my website. And I have tutorials that go more in depth on each of these functions here. Actually, did I go over slice? I don't think I did. Before I end up this, I'm going to show you guys slice really quick too. I do have a tutorial on this as well, but slice is where you take something like a shape or a couple of objects, and I'm just going to size these ones up so you can see. Let's make them different colors. I feel like that makes it more visible for what we're actually doing. So I'm going to make this one pink. So slice, the slice tool is, say you wanted to cut a circle out of the square. You can place it where you would like over the item. You can draw a box around it. And then it highlights the tools down here. You can click slice. And slice, what it does is it takes out a section from what you did. So there we go. We basically use this as a little cutout essentially that you can use. And then what you can do is take away the pieces you don't want. So say you don't want this piece, you can just exit out of it, and then you would have the piece that you have left over, and you could probably get rid of that. So it's just a great way to design and play with something. I use it a lot if there's something that I want to add or remove from a project as well. But I'll leave information on all of those videos below so you can check them out. So hopefully this helped you guys, and just leave a comment below and let me know if you have any questions.